Well, hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. You know, sometimes an album hits you from so many different angles. The artist, the voice, the recording, the writing, the engineering, the mastering, the overall aura of a record. It doesn't happen often, but when it does, it's quite impactful. And today's vinyl shootout of only 2 pressings is an example of that. It's Chris Isaak's Heart-Shaped World. Now, recently on my live show, The Audio Quest with Novice Nick, this was one of the albums that I said was the most impactful for validating your system and seeing its breadth and depth and capability. And I truly stand by that statement. So we'll talk about this album and the results between 2 pressings on the Safe and Sound Texas audio excursion. I've got to be honest, I was a bit of a late bloomer when it came to knowing about this particular record. It came out as a reissue in 2022 as an RSD Essential, and it was on white vinyl on Sun Records, which was different than the original, which was on Reprise. Now, most of us know the song Wicked Game. It's been used in any number of television series, and it just has that haunting sound that once you've heard it, you probably never forget it. But I didn't know this album back in 1989. Now, I'd heard of the artist Chris Isaak, but was no follower of his. But when I received this album in 2022 through the RSD Essential and put it on my turntable, I was blown away. There's no other way to put it. His voice is so majestically recorded in this record, and the instrumentation and engineering and mixing of this is just so precise and overwhelming in so many ways that you just get drawn into this record. So much to the point where I sought out an original on Reprise. And it cost me a pretty penny, $60 to be exact, whereas the original is about, well, back when I got it, it was around $25. So they're both more expensive now than they were then. But this album is one for the ages from an audio perspective. As a matter of fact, I took it with me the other day to Audio Concepts where we had a vinyl community night. And you'll see that video on the channel because I thought it was a great representation of a really fabulous sounding record. But on a vinyl shootout, it's all about how different are they? Well, it's a good news, bad news thing in a way. The bad news is it's not like you can just pick one and say that's the one. The good news is you can get the reissue, which is cheaper, and you're going to get just as much power out of it, almost as the OG. The original just has a little more of that soul feeling, a little more of that precision, but on the whole, the reissue is no slouch whatsoever. Let's take a quick look at the numbers. The nature of audio comparisons is that the results presented in this video are fully subjective. They are based on my equipment in my listening room using my hearing capability. Therefore, your results may be different. My effort here is to provide you the relative difference of audio characteristics across various pressings. Chris Isaak's Heart-Shaped World was released in 1989. In the original U.S. first pressing, it was mastered by Greg Fulginiti. Lacquer was cut at Artisan Sound Recorders and pressed at Specialty Records Corporation. and that one gets a fetching $85 or so for a decent VG Plus or better copy on Discogs. Now, the reissue that came out from Universal was on this RSD Essential series. It was white vinyl. The lacquer was cut by Levi Seitz at Black Belt Mastering and was pressed by Furnace Record Pressings in Virginia. This was a 2022 release, and currently you can get one for about $45. Now, these two cuts were very much similar in terms of volume, so I had to really do nothing from a volume matching standpoint, which is always nice. And the quietness of the vinyl was about a 9 for both, pretty decent for both, so not really any contention there whatsoever. When we got into the actual sonics of the record, the bass, mid-bass, treble areas, well, the difference here was a smidge, but it was discernible but not significant. The U.S. pressing just hit it out of the park everywhere. This is a great sounding record. It's a 10 away across the board there. And it's just a little less precise, I would say. The bass doesn't quite reach down as much on the RSD. The top end is just a tad less, but I mean, I would be happy with the RSD Essential all day long. It's the one I had for the longest time before I found this original out in the wild. Truth be known, if I got a good high dollar offer for the original, I probably would just keep the RSD Essential. It's that good in my mind, but I do want to show that there is a little bit of a gap between the two, although it's not anything to write home about. Dynamic range, soundstage, and voices. Again, the OG just is every bit masterful in every area. And again, the reissue is very, very strong. Just didn't quite have as much openness, and I'm very satisfied with the RSD Essential at all, and that OG just brought it just a hair over the top, and something that you think couldn't be bettered was just bettered a bit. So this is kind of a boring one. Sorry, folks, but you got an average of a 10 on the top one. It's just a homer all the way around. And in the RSD Essential, being a 9 is very, very strong. So dollar for dollar, you get a good value with that RSD Essential. And I think it's probably easier to find in the wild as well. So it was a bit hard to figure out what you might like because these are both very strong. But I said on the original, if you desire the most dynamic range and clarity from this album on black vinyl, that's the one to have. Whereas the RSD Essential, if you want a stellar showpiece of sound in an easier to find and less expensive option, and you don't mind white vinyl, then the RSD Essential is for you. So you can see it's not a problem to pick up that reissue and have a really solid recording whatsoever. Now, the song Wicked Game is in fact the one that most people are familiar with, but there's a lot of other great songs on this album, including the title track, Don't Make Me Dream About You, Kings of the Highway, Blue Spanish Sky, Forever Young. So this album holds a lot of songs right out there, kind of in your lap. I mean, this guy's voice just comes at you and just settles in. And it's so endearing to the song writing and the emotion that can be coming out of your speakers with the ability of Chris Isaak's voice to blend in the meaning of the songs and the richness of it to kind of make you feel like he's in the room. Just close your eyes. It's that kind of record. Check it out, at least on streaming if you haven't, because it's well worth the time. So thanks for joining today. If you're not a subscriber, please click the bell below, and a thumbs up or like is really, really, really appreciated, as are any of your comments. And remember, our live shows, the Audio Quest, every Monday at 6:30. Also, I'm starting a new show with Louis V called Chasing Better Sound every other Wednesday at 8 p.m., and these times are all Central Time. And we will, in fact, be meeting every other week on that show. A membership is available for the channel for $4.99, and you get a daily audio diet every single day, a video on something about music. So for now, thanks for joining me as always at the Safe and Sound Texas Audio Excursion. Take care, everybody.